Hello and welcome to Debra's Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. This is her 100th episode, and we are here today to look back over the 100 episodes that Debra has created, where she shares so much content for free that is useful and easy for anyone to access. It's all around tips around losing weight, improving your health, and how you feel empowered to take control and ultimately live the best quality of life for you. So, Debra, we're at 100 episodes, and I think it's only apt for us to look back to episode 2, where you talked about what it's like to start a podcast, and maybe we link that to what it's like to start a fitness journey.
Absolutely. Can I just say what a great intro, and thank you so much for hosting today's show. And hopefully the listeners, you listening today, whoever's listening today, you have also listened, well, to all of the episodes. But Kate joined me on episode 50 and interviewed me asking questions on behalf of clients, followers, whoever wanted to ask questions. And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Kate, for coming back to do the 100th episode. And yeah, welcome. So when I started this podcast, my first episode was a bit of an intro, what the intention of the podcast was. And then episode 2, I called it You Don't Start Good, because with anything in life, not just a health and fitness journey or a podcast, it could be absolutely anything, cooking, any skill, a job at work, whatever it might be, being a mum. You don't just, some things come more natural, but some things we have to work really hard at. They don't come easy, they don't come natural. And I likened episode 2 to me starting the podcast. It took me ages, to build up the courage to do it. In the same way, in a health and fitness journey, people think about wanting to do something, whether it's to join a gym, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to have coaching. They kind of think about it for a long time before taking action. And I think that's perfectly normal. And I'm looking at myself in the camera here, desperate for a haircut, because I think about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then I finally contact my hairdresser. She's on holiday, and now I've got to wait. And I know that whatever it is, whatever in life, sometimes it just takes us a while to take action. In the same way it took me to start my podcast and for other women to start their health and fitness journey. And what I explained in episode 2 was really about the expectations when starting a journey. And I think that's what we're going to be talking through and discussing in this podcast today.
Yeah, and I think it's a really great way to kind of bring that connection to people. It's so often that women in particular, and I know that they are your main client base, but they'll do different kind of coaching, different kind of weight loss groups, hoping for that quick fix. We know that lots of people now look at different injections and things like that, but actually people come to you when they are ready to take that sustained improvement, that step to help them improve for the good and for longer. And I think it's one of the core things of your podcast. And I imagine before starting your podcast, you must have talked multiple times to your camera, uploading stories and feeds, and it's having that confidence to finally come on and start recording, these more detailed podcasts, giving people more information. Do you see that with many of your clients? Do you see many of your clients, hesitant to get into the gym or take that leap and join you with coaching because they've done so many other things historically?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great observation. And, my biggest demographic is women. I've been using the term midlife more recently, but generally my biggest demographic of clients are women over 40. And historically, most women of 40 and over have been a part of diet culture. We've grown up with diet culture. We've grown up with aspiring to be thin, to be small, we may have had parents who were dieting as we grew up as kids, and we've been very exposed to the diet culture. And as a result, many of my clients, as well as myself, have a history of trying countless diets, and some work short term, but they're not sustainable and the weight goes back on. And it's this sort of cycle of losing and gaining, but never really getting anywhere. And when people approach me for coaching, or they just want to find out and ask questions, which I absolutely welcome. I love answering questions and helping people, is that the hesitation people have is, well, what's different about your coaching? Why is this going to work when everything failed in the past? And so this is like the biggest barrier that women have. And I suppose if I sort of liken that to my podcast, it was a really big barrier to getting started, because I like having conversations. And when you're recording a podcast and it's solo, just me in my little cabin in the garden, like you're in your garden, I'm just talking to myself. It doesn't feel like I'm talking to a listener. It's just me talking to my computer screen. But actually, over the episodes and over the 1 year and 7 months and 3 days it has taken to record this 100th episode from starting, just to sort of put that in a time bracket, it's taken a long time, good year and a half. I forgot what I was going to say actually before I gave that time bracket. What was I saying, Kay? Yeah, I would never have imagined that I would get used to doing this podcast, that I would feel quite comfortable. And actually, I've got used to talking to myself. In fact, I have far too good a time talking to myself sometimes. And then it's when people feed back from listening to my podcast and tell me how helpful an episode was, or a tip that I might have said that's made a difference. And likening that back to women joining for coaching, starting a journey, they have to have come to the realization that what they were doing really isn't working. And you can keep trying and you can keep repeating the same things, but you're not going to get a different outcome. And that's what finally gives women the catalyst to think, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. I'm gonna start with Debra, and that's how that happens.
Yeah, and I think listening to you talk there, it's about sustainability and discipline, and it's something that you talked about previously in multiple podcasts. But this whole "you don't start good" actually is so true, right? You've got to have the discipline to keep coming back every week or every other week to record your podcast. The same as, people that are new to exercise, it's the discipline of, I'm going to do that half an hour exercise, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to work out at home at this point. And then the sustainability of doing that is weaving it into your everyday life or weekly occurrence, depending on what it is from a podcast or an exercise perspective. When you look back at that podcast and that episode around "you don't start good," what did you hope to gain from that, from sharing that experience with the listeners?
I wanted listeners and women to realize that progressing towards your goal, feeling good in yourself, getting better health, it's like it doesn't happen in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. Don't get me wrong. You will instantly feel good from taking action. You can't help but feel good from going for the walk, preferably somewhere in nature that's pretty, that benefits your well-being. There are certain things you will feel instantly good for doing, but in terms of like your long-term goals, so if that's weight loss or getting stronger or getting more toned, it's not going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, 2 months. It takes time and it takes consistency. But the biggest highlight is it's not going to be linear and it's not going to be a perfect journey. And when you accept that you don't actually have to be perfect, and that you actually will make more progress from just being consistent and trying your hardest and doing your best, yeah. That's what I've applied to my podcast, and that's what I coach and help clients come to the realization, is that the flip side of being perfect is giving up, and that will set you further back. So for an example, with my podcast, I set myself a target of recording 1 podcast episode a week without fail. And I have done that the majority of the time. But some weeks I have missed an episode. But I haven't given up and thought, oh, I've missed an episode. I'm never going to record an episode again. I'm going to make one go into 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I might have missed one, but then I get myself, back into the routine. In the same way in a health and fitness journey, you may miss a gym workout. Maybe you ate a bit too much one day. It's like reflect, learn, move on, carry on. And that's how you'll make progress.
And I think it comes back to that sustainable change, right? So it's taking those steps at the point that you need to, and recognizing that actually life sometimes can throw you curveballs. And I know in the time that I've known you over the last 2.5 years, you've sadly lost your dog, and I had a very poorly child at one point, and I was unable to exercise pretty much for 3 weeks. I was just looking after them, and you couldn't get onto your podcast because of other situations. But that doesn't mean that we ever stopped and didn't pick it back up and redo it. And you've just got to back yourself as well. And I think that goes back to the discipline piece. Is discipline comes by doing, not just by saying I'm being disciplined this week and delivering it at that point.
Yeah. There's a few things there that you've said that's like really important just to expand upon. So life does get in the way, right? We all go through different things in life, like you've been through, like I've been, bereavement, you've been through a poorly child. Like life does throw us curveballs, but throughout those times, we still can just have to keep doing our best. Now, you've mentioned like discipline a few times. Now, I try not to rely on discipline. I don't tend to use that word with clients because I don't want to rely on discipline. So what I do in my coaching is help women create habits and routine so that you don't need to rely on discipline. It's about making the plan, setting the routine, being open to a change in that routine, and doing the best you can consistently. Yes, there are times where you do have to be disciplined in terms of, I said I'm going, you look at your calendar and there's gym session. I'm supposed to be going to the gym, but I don't feel like it. And it's about that. At that point, it would be easy to say, I don't feel like it. I'm going to wait till I feel motivated. But actually, that's when you do need to use some discipline and say, I made a plan. I'm going to be disciplined enough to follow the plan. And that's when you kind of need to action discipline. But it is about routine and behaviors and habits and doing the best you can, no matter the circumstances that you're in. And it kind of, what you've said really leads me on to something I saw on social media just this morning, actually, where there was a post and it was it was like another coach, and it said, let's keep pushing, or something like that. And I thought about this, right? Just like I thought about it, and I thought to myself, I don't coach telling people to push, keep pushing, because women have lives, have multiple responsibilities, have multiple commitments and pulls on their time. It's not about pushing harder. It's about being compassionate. It's about being understanding to your circumstances and about doing your best, the best that you can be, and just to keep showing up for yourself in any way that you can in any given circumstance, dependent on your circumstances.
And I think you've talked about that a lot over, the 100 episodes that you've done, where it's about living your life whilst working towards your goals. It's not one or the other. It's, achieving your goals, but, enjoying the life that you're in at that point as well. You do a lot around helping people understand how to have that consistency when they're maybe on holiday. I camp a lot, and we've talked about how do you navigate the crisps and gin at 4 p.m, and what does that look like. But also, lots of people talk about, well, how do I go out for dinner? I used to always have a bottle of wine, a starter, a main dessert. And you talk to people about strategies, about, well, pick your indulgences. What is more important to you at the minute? How can you navigate that? Can you swap out your chips for a salad, and helping people really just understand you can still do all of these things. You can still live a very fulfilling life, and go on multiple socials, but you have to make some, choices in that as well, don't you? So
Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about you and camping, because you have nailed it. Like Kate has nailed it. And in our client closed Facebook group, Kate often posts pictures of her breakfast and, what she's having for lunch and things like that. And you have applied the fundamental principles
yeah,
of a balanced meal, eating to support your goal, but the best you can, whether you're in a tent, a caravan, like whenever you've been away, you've always tried to maintain the principles. And like anything, you don't start good at managing those holidays.
no.
You've got better and better with each of those types of holidays. So like you have done really, really well with that. And like I love seeing your posts, and that's with like limited refrigeration, cooking facilities, etc.
But I think what you help clients understand is the importance of a very nutritious diet. So, I used to go camping, and gosh, when I would come back after a week, I would crave, vegetables or fruit, etc. Now I don't have that because they are literally always part of the diet when you're there. And that's just an example. But, there's so many different things that as you go through coaching versus kind of a quick fix, diet club, you are learning the absolute fundamentals of what helps you as an individual to be, full, satisfied, with nutritious food that actually helps you to not want to pick. Or if you want to sit down and pick, and rather than having crisps, you might cut up some crudité or take a fruit salad. And there's so many things that empower your clients to do around their decisions that they make, that makes a difference when you're at these family functions. And I've often talked about, sometimes I'll go to a family member's and it's a lot of beige food, crisps, sausage rolls, and often now I rock up with a plate of crudité and hummus because it means I've got something to, nibble on while everyone else is enjoying the other stuff as well. Sometimes I'll have the other bits, but it's that balance, isn't it? So
yeah. Do you know what? Again, some really valid points, Kate, because funnily enough, I just put out a post, 5 tips for enjoying a meal out
yeah,
and, without ruining your weight loss goal, basically. Because you know what it is, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this podcast, is that women in midlife have got such an extensive dieting history, on and off diets, every different diet, is that you get really distorted and you get really confused. And it's not anyone's fault, it's the diet's fault that's inflicted it onto all of us. And it warps our beliefs, behaviors, and our perceptions of how we view food. And that affects how we act and respond around it. And when you understand that, like any unit of energy for anything, whether it's, your height in inches or feet or centimeters, or, your speed, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, food is made up of a unit of energy called calories. People think it's a dirty word if you say calories. God forbid you say calorie counting. It's like a bit of I don't want a calorie count. But actually, it's a unit of energy. And when you realize that food, whether it's the apple, whether it's the donut, they both contain calories. One is not good, one is not bad. One might be more nutritious, one might be more, and benefit your physical health and your physiological health. One might be really delicious, but benefit your psychological health and help you with your adherence to eat all the good stuff, all the healthier stuff. And having that balance and not viewing them as good or bad, because if you view something as bad, then you feel like you've been bad. And then when you feel like you've been bad, you may as well throw your dummy out the pram and be really bad. And that's how it, ends up in a bit of a spiral. And all these past diets is because they're all great when you follow them in your day-to-day life, but they don't arm you with the tools and the strategies and the understanding and the healthy beliefs of how to go out for a meal and understand the food on your plate, what it is, what it consists of. Is it protein? Like, what is it? And this is what I want to break down so that women have more understanding of how to make choices to support their goals. So it's not, oh, I'm on, oh, I'm off. I'm on
Yeah.
track, I'm off track. I fell off the wagon. Like, there is no wagon, there is no track. It's a figure of speech, I get it, but it's your life, and you want to have the knowledge. Knowledge is power, to make choices with a full understanding of the choices that you're making. Because sometimes, and I have this a lot, clients will send me a menu and they'll say, I'm eating out at this restaurant, I'm thinking of having whatever it might be. What do you think? And I look at it, and sometimes clients don't realize that a lot of restaurants have calories on menus. Restaurants often make it really flipping hard to find those calories. One menu for a client I checked the other week had a tiny QR code, tiny, in the bottom left-hand corner. No one looks there for it, but I'm looking and I know, and I found it. And what she wanted, that she thought would be a really healthy choice, actually was about 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
And in, like, it would have been lower calories to have like the burger or something like that she probably really wanted, but thought, oh, I'm going to choose a bit more of a healthier option. And actually that healthier option was like it was like some kind of salad of some sort. It was like 1,000 calories. And so when you're armed with knowledge, when you know how to make informed choices, it helps you not give up on your goals or perceive that you've ruined things.
I think it's so important with the coaching that you've done and the podcast is that embracing of learning. It's a constant journey of, you know, life is a journey that you constantly learn on. And actually, you've got to have a bit of patience
Yeah.
around the results that you're after, because more often than not, people want that quick fix. That quick fix can work in the short term, but doesn't in the long term. And I know we were having a conversation not that long ago about the benefits of being fit and healthy before you hit menopause actually significantly will reduce your symptoms as well, because you're not carrying excess weight, which means you might not get as hot, as an example. You generally will have increased muscle density as well, which will support you, through that period as well. And I think it's really critical that we support people to understand that you don't need the quick fixes. You need that long-term, sustained process of a healthy lifestyle to improve things for longer. I never thought I would still be coaching with you after 2.5 years, but I absolutely enjoy it. I love the challenges of the different kind of client challenges that you do, but also the coaching around, I might have joined you to lose weight. Yes, I've lost some weight, but I've also built a significant amount of muscle and strength and improved my health overall. And actually, that is so much more important than the number on the scales.
Yeah, I mean, like, Kate, I don't need to add anything to that. You've like nailed, that mindset that you now have, and I do find this, like, with a lot of women, is they start off. It's funny. I have some women who don't want to talk about losing weight. They tell me their goals, but they leave off weight loss. But ultimately, what they're describing leads to weight loss, as well as the other things that they're benefits that they want to feel, and that they're describing. Other clients, weight loss is their sole goal. Now, with both of these things, or both of these types of clients, although their approaches are different, ultimately they're achieving the same thing. And it's switching your mindset from just about weight loss, because you know what, weight loss, and I can't think of the right terminology, but weight loss is can be boring. It's like, oh, you're really in the mindset and you're motivated and you're going to do everything that you need to do to lose weight, but unfortunately it's not enough to keep you interested for a long period of time. And sometimes it takes a longer period of time. It's, yes, you can go on a really super strict low calorie diet, make a get no carbs for marbs and all that type of thing, and do a big restrictive diet, lose weight. You'll probably come back with all the weight regained and more. But when you focus on long-term health that encompasses weight loss, it is much more motivating than just solely on weight loss, because that is not enough to keep you interested to see the long lasting results that you want. And that's why focusing on how you perform in the gym, getting strong, that feeling of empowerment, Like, there's nothing better than lifting a weight, like with control,
Yep.
noticing that you can do it, like it's not as hard as it was 4 weeks ago, and then you can increase your weight or do an extra couple of reps. Like, that's motivating to recognize those, rewards. And with weight loss, you may, even though you're really adherent and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, sometimes the scales go up, like, because you're a human being, right? That's just what happens. Scale weight fluctuates. It's not, it can be very despondent, which is why focusing on building healthy habits, getting fit, getting healthy, getting strong, supporting menopause, aging strong, these are what need to get you excited. As you can see, they get me excited, and I've been doing this for years. That's what, like, people say to me, how do you feel motivated to get to the gym? It's not about feeling motivated. I'm not driven by weight loss. I'm not driven by my external appearance. It's a byproduct. I look the way I do because I focus on my long-term health. That's the byproduct. But if I just focused on weight loss, I'd have given up years ago. Like, it's boring. It's boring. And it's about finding long-term sustainability, is health, happiness, being able to live your life and enjoy your life whilst you stay mindful of your health and feeling good in yourself and the choices that you make, that they align with how you want to feel. Too many women, we're so eager to please everybody else at the expense of ourselves. That's another big one. I don't know how to liken that to the podcast. You know what? I can liken that to the podcast. Sometimes I think, what do I need to record this week? I'm thinking of some ideas. What do my clients need to hear, or what do my listeners need to hear? And then I think, you know what? I'm just going to record what I want to record because it's my podcast.
Yeah.
And obviously what I'm recording is relevant to the topic. But sometimes, you've got to do things that benefit you. But the bigger picture is the quick fixes. And even with, you mentioned at the beginning, Kate, the weight loss injections, like, they're here to stay. So they're on the NHS. People are buying them online. I am not against them, and I really want to make that a strong point. I have coached a couple of clients that have been on weight loss injections. They were right for those particular clients, but we have spent time building the habits and behaviors. So when they stop those weight loss injections, they will have the skills and the framework and the structure to continue without those injections, and ideally maintain the weight that they've lost, as opposed to people on weight loss injections. They will work. They will work. They do what they say on the tin. But what are you going to do? Take them for the rest of your life? Because what happens when people come off them, they don't even know what a protein is. They don't know how to put a balanced meal together. They don't exercise. They don't strength train. They've
Yeah.
probably lost a lot of muscle from the weight loss injections. And I'm being very stereotypical here. So it is about long-term sustainability and health. And we don't actually know the health risks of these injections on people that are not pre-diabetic or have, extreme health conditions. Those test studies have been done. Those people are closely monitored. But unfortunately, buying off the internet, you're not under medical guidance. People are microdosing. I don't want to turn it into a weight loss injection podcast. I
Yeah.
do need to record one, but it's the quick fixes. Everyone wants a quick fix, and it's a shortcut. And it is about building long-term sustainable habits and enjoying them, finding a way that is enjoyable for you. What's enjoyable for me is different to what might be enjoyable for you and the next person.
And I think it's so important to look at why you started the podcast, okay, and what you've called it. It's the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast, and it's there to help empower women to be stronger, to be healthier, and ultimately that brings the happiness with it. Because if you are, feeling great from a strength perspective, and a health perspective, it's going to impact you from a mental and a physical well-being piece. When you look back over the last 100 episodes, are there like key learnings that you've you know that you've come up with, or things that for you have really changed how you now tackle your podcasts?
Well, I just want to backtrack to the name of the podcast, and I'm so proud of calling my podcast the Strong, Healthy, Happy Podcast. And actually, it was a couple of years ago, I had a coach, and she was also a business mentor. And it was at the time I was setting up my podcast, and I said, I need a strap line. I need to think about what I want to call my podcast. And she said, well, what are you passionate about in your coaching? What do you want for your clients? And the podcast reflected the answer to that question. Is I want my clients to feel strong, to feel healthy, and to feel happier. There isn't, I want my clients to lose weight. I mean, obviously that's part of it, but it's not the main thing that will happen, guaranteed, if that's someone's goal. But Strong, Healthy, Happy Podcast is ultimately what I really epitomize within my coaching. And, like Kate, you are part of the team of women. There are 9 clients, I think, including me, maybe 10, keep losing count, who are taking on a challenge. It is a physical challenge, testing strength, testing endurance. Amongst the team are women. Before they started coaching, they hadn't even stepped a foot in the gym. They weren't even confident enough to step in the gym. You yourself started exercising from home.
Yeah.
And now you're in the gym and you're lifting weights and you're using free weights and you're doing big compound moves. And it's like, this is what fills my cup. This is what fills my heart, is seeing women really become healthier, stronger, happier versions of themselves. And in terms of my podcast, you know what? I said to you off camera when we were talking about this episode the other week, listen, sometimes I record what I believe is a really great podcast, and I get a bit disappointed if my views are low. But do you know what? Every single episode, I can hand on heart. Now, some episodes are better than others. Some I've been more prepared for. Some I did a bit off the cuff. Some I just wanted to record something and I just did it in the moment. And this also likens to health and fitness. Is not every podcast is my best podcast. I just try and be consistent, and I do my best. May not be my best every time, but I do my best. And at the end of the day, Kate, you know what I have an encyclopedia of podcast episodes that if someone listening to this says, I want to know more about XYZ, I can say, do you know what? I'm going to send you a podcast episode where I talk about it and break it down. And it's a piece of information that I will have forever, my podcast, to share and send to anybody who is specifically looking for something or a specific topic, a subject. And it is like, I can only think of the word like an encyclopedia that, you look something up. I can share it with you. It's free. And I always try and make my episodes easy to apply. I'm not going to blind you with science. That's not the way I coach, right? I'm not going to blind you with science. I'm going to give you some helpful tips and advice that women can apply to their lives in a way that they're able to within their individual life, but with my guidance from my podcast. And that's what I wanted. That was the reason why I started my podcast, was to help women. Not everyone can afford coaching. Some of, and Kate, you know this, you're an avid listener and you do have me one-to-one, but it's another touch point. And you know what? I listen to informative podcasts like mine. Can't quite listen to my own unless I need to reference something. I don't even really listen to them back. I normally just upload them. It's only if I share clips that I think, oh my God, something. I don't like listening to myself. But I listen to educational podcasts in the coaching environment from my mentors. You can never hear this stuff enough, right? And I know this stuff. I live this stuff. I've been through it myself. I still go through it. You can't hear it enough. And this is what it's there forever, my podcast. And I'm going to keep adding to it. That's my plan.
Yeah, look, and we are at the end of this 100th episode, and I think, everybody that hears your podcast, I know you get some wonderful feedback from it, and I hope that long may that continue in terms of how many you do. I think it's really important just to say that if you found this podcast insightful, you should like, share, follow, and 5-star review Debra. She is an amazing coach and helps so many women, regardless of your starting point, your reason, your situation. So yeah, like, share, follow, review, and we hope that you've enjoyed hearing more about Debra. Thanks.
Kate, thank you so much.